Hi, hello everybody. Welcome. So, I hope you're all settled in. Just listen to the music. We're going to be starting soon, but I do want to have like a an introduction as to what this is because it's very different from what we usually do, which is play games and play Valorant. So, what Cafe Talks is that we basically invite people from any industry and we want to talk about creativity, we want to talk about doing good, we want to talk about like other hobbies besides games. So we've had this in the past where we talked about marketing. We invited some people in that industry, and we also invited some people in photography and a bunch of like your regular adults to talk about like basically adulting. And hello, Vernon. Welcome to the stream. So today we're actually going to be talking about iVolunteerPH. So what iVolunteer is that it's an organization here. It's an NGO, and it helps other NGOs reach out to volunteers. And we actually have like the executive director and co-founder of iVol, JB10. So like I said, he's been super busy the entire day. Like I don't know if you guys saw him in CNN this morning, and there was a radio show also like 2 p.m. And now he's here on Twitch. It's wild. So if you guys have any questions also, feel free to ask in the chat. I'll get it to him to answer later on. And then yeah, thank you guys for being here, and thank you for the lurks, thank you for listening in. And so JB Tan is the executive director of iVolunteerPH. He's also the co-founder, and he has an interesting story also about how iVolunteer was founded long ago. So yeah, I think how many years was that? 2009, right? 2009
Nine.
was
So
the
it's 14 years now.
oh my god. Oh yeah, because we had like the 13-year anniversary also.
Yes.
So yeah, that's quite a while. So maybe JB can introduce himself, like who he is, what his work is, like what kind of industry he's in, and also like what his role is at iVol. So yeah, go
All
ahead,
right.
JB.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. So my name is JB. Aside from I volunteer, I have a full-time day job working as an IT professional in one of the dairy companies based out of Netherlands. Uh, Other than that, I also run a business called The Good Store. So we started this social enterprise as a sibling of I Volunteer. But then I also am the executive director and one of the founders of I Volunteer Philippines, which is a nonprofit organization that encourage people to volunteer because we do believe that if everybody will be just sharing their time, their talent, or their treasure, one way or another, big or small, we can achieve a better place for us to all live in. Right? So that's a simple dream of I Volunteer.
So can you tell us more about iVolunteer? Like I have it on the slide right now actually, because I was like trying to like get everything about like its history. So what we know about it is that it was established in 2009, long ago. I think I was 17 years old during this time. Third year high school that
Yeah,
wild.
I was also 17 years old. Don't worry.
Oh my god. Following the events of Ondoy. I don't know if people remember what Ondoy is. Or it's like its international name is Typhoon Ketsana. And it was one of the
Yes.
most devastating ones kasi like back then in Tagalog hindi pa ganun kalala yung mga storms. Like hindi pa talaga ganun kalala, and then it just got worse as time went
What do
on.
you remember, Trish, from Ondoy?
Alam mo, parang naalala ko yung mga roof dun sa labas, nagsisiliparan. Kasi, our area here, it doesn't really flood. Like, thankfully, it sits on a hill. So, yung surroundings namin, though, the one, like, right around our house, yung mga side streets dun, those are the ones that flood. So, technically, we're actually like locked in during that time. That's not I remember parang may camcorder pa nga ako. Like I had my camcorder and I was just like trying to video the like the leaves, the rain that's already like going sideways, and then there's like this metal tin roof like curling through the streets. It was kind of wild. That's what I remembered. So yeah. PUPG says their area was flooded for 3 weeks. It was really bad. It was a really bad.
It
Um,
was.
yeah. So that's when at that time I volunteer was founded with, and just as a flashback, I looked through some pictures. it was as bad as I remembered actually. It's like what the heck? Like
Yeah.
super flooded streets, and then some cars got stuck, and there's a lot of people who also died, and there was a lot of people who needed help during this time also.
Oo, oo. And actually, during that time, the spirit of volunteerism also came very much alive in Metro Manila. Because doon talaga din nakita ng tao that there's so many things that they can share and help. Like personally, our place never got flooded also until Ondoy. So for that day, I also went out for to get a haircut. Then I went for an expo in World Trade Center. Then my sister was calling me na, hey, you have to come home because our house was flooded. Parang, ah. Then when I was going home, on my way home, I was driving. Ang kasabay ko na lang are all big trucks, 8-wheelers, 10-wheelers. Then I can feel my car shaking, no? Parang my car was not even parang grounded on the road na parang I was just floating. So whenever the trucks were moving, then I was like floating also. Then yeah, I have to park my car outside on the major streets because I cannot get home. Then I just walk home through the flood. Then yeah, I discovered our house is also flooded. But then yun din, you wanted to help, as you can see from these photos. No, there's really a lot of challenges at that time. We wanted to help, me and my fellow founders, but it was very difficult also because you don't know where to help. What we can see were ABS-CBN Foundation, GMA Foundation, DSWD, relief centers, but they were all saying, please don't come here anymore because our centers are
Mm-hmm.
quite packed with volunteers. So then sayang our energy or people's energy who wanted to help, right? People just didn't know where to channel this energy. So eventually we realized a few days later there were a lot of small operations that needed help. And that's when we decided, yeah, we do need something like iVolunteer so that we can help these smaller operations find volunteers, at the same time help volunteers easily find avenues for them to help. That's the simple dream at the time.
Mm-mm. So wait, can I ask you some questions about the little details? Because it's a big jump eh. Like parang okay, this typhoon happened and then biglang okay, suddenly there's this founding. Like who are the people you were with? Like who are they? Are they friends? And then parang how did the thought about creating an organization like this happen?
So more backstory, tama ka, Trish. It did not really start from Ondoy. Well, that's what we consider as our starting point. But the idea of a volunteer website was talk, I think, for 1 to 2 years between me, Belle, who's the other founder, and Hazel. We were all office mates. We were all very active in volunteering during our college days or high school days. But then when you go into working, you realize that it's more difficult to find organizations or communities or places where you can volunteer. Right? You're lucky if your company is active in terms of having a CSR program, but a lot of companies don't have that. So that's what we also realized. While our company then had a CSR program, it's probably not so much in line to the things that we want to do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So normally may focus lang yung company of based on their advocacy. That's the things that they continue to do.
Mm-mm.
So then we've been talking about this because we were all in IT. Why not solve our own problem by putting up a website for us? We were hesitant at the beginning because we were not sure if we are just gonna solve this for ourselves. Is there really a need for this? So we never took action about this idea that we've been talking about for 1 to 2 years until Ondoy, where we validated that there's a lot of people who really wanted to help. So that's how it then accelerated. That's why we consider Ondoy as the starting point of
Mm-mm.
iPhone.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that you were IT. Okay, so that's how it started. That's why it was a website first and
Yes.
foremost. So guys, like if you look at the pin post pala at the top, it leads you to the iVolunteer website. Also Lorraine is here. Lorraine is here. Si Ria Rain. That's Lorraine.
Hi,
Hi
Lorraine.
Lorraine. Hello, hello. She was also a guest here. But it wasn't a cafe talks. It was just a regular podcasty type of thing. So, ayun na. I already asked Lorraine questions na rin. So, yeah. So that's an interesting start of the iVol organization. And then how did it grow? Like, how did it grow from, okay, from website? Kasi, di ba, like, there was a crisis, basically. Because, like, there are so many volunteers. It was like I guess, like, funnel sila into, like, the more known NGOs until it got to the point na okay, they don't know where to help or how to help. Like, how did you reach out to those? And there's also, like, the issue of, like, volun like the NGOs themselves not knowing how to reach the volunteers. So I guess, like, parang what was the jump off point? Kasi, like, we have yung mga stuff sa website, right? Like, here, these are actually examples of the current volunteer efforts right now on our site. So you have, like, yung parang, for example, yung volunteer general assembly. There's, like, on-site sign-ups, and there's, like, stuff for river cleanup. So it's like it varies all throughout, like, what kind of advocacy that you want. And then how did it get to events?
Yeah. So there are, I think, three trigger points on how I volunteer evolved beyond a website. So the original idea was really just a website, but there were three things that triggered us. One, every time we have a calamity or disaster, you see a lot of people wanting to help, right? Because the media will show pictures like what you were showing earlier, or social media has a lot of hype among so what's happening during a typhoon season. But immediately a few days later, you will see the energy of the volunteers coming down.
Mm-mm.
Right? So that's also what we first saw in Ondoy. Yes, there were a lot of people who wanted to help, but then soon, people just forget and then move on. That's when we realize also that we should help people understand that the problem is not just when media is highlighting this, or when the typhoon or calamities are at the peak of its situation, but every day there's actually an issue, right? I always have this picture when I do talks outside, where I put side by side a picture of
Mm-mm.
a site that was impacted by a calamity or a typhoon, and a site that is a day-to-day life in a dump site, right? And if you see it from afar, they look very, very the same. But how come we only take action when there are typhoons, right? But the calamities are there every day. So that's the first insight or
Mm-mm.
trigger on why we evolve. The second one is we were invited, I think, a few months later into our ideation, we were invited into a NGO forum, a non-government organization forum, where there's about 100 NGOs there,
Mm-hmm.
just gathering. And here we are, very excited, young chumps, excited about their idea that will save the world, right?
Mm-mm.
And talking about, hey, we're gonna bring you volunteers through our website. Then that triggered us again to be surprised that the problems are actually bigger than information or access to information. So the NGO started asking us difficult questions like, um, how do you make sure that the individuals that you will be sending to us are legitimate volunteers?
Mm-hmm.
That they will not take advantage of the vulnerable children that we have, right? So that they will come when they say they commit.
Mm.
So, oh my God, the problems are bigger.
Yeah, because it's more of like
This
the
is not what,
behavioral.
yes, this is not what we signed up for, right? We just signed up to have a website, but then they threw more question to us than what we can or what we were readily able to answer. And that's when we realized that the problem in the volunteer sector or in the development sector is not just information. Yes, that's part of that. But there's really a mistrust between the nonprofits who needs volunteers and the volunteers towards the nonprofit. But at some point also, you see in televisions, in media, there were scams about nonprofits, right? So there was also a typhoon period where there was a scam where people were donating food. Then they
Mm-hmm.
saw this food being sold in Divisoria,
Oh.
the market.
So
There
they
was
just
also
use the people's money or the donations for that. Okay.
so there's also those scams with the government that they pretended to channel money through a fictitious
Mm-mm.
nonprofit, then it became big, right? So there are also this kind of mistrust, and that's what we're really trying to address in iVolunteer. Where how do we bring back the trust between the nonprofit organizations towards the volunteers and the volunteers towards the NGOs?
Mm-mm.
And we hope that if these two sides of the coin or the bridge will trust iVolunteer, right, then eventually we will be able to bridge this and create that trust back in the ecosystem. So that's the
Mm-mm.
second like trajectory. We we then started realizing that we can't just provide information. There's still a lot of stereotype about volunteering. Some people will say this is only for students, or for when you are retired, or for when you have for more females. We actually see a lot of more females volunteering, or for the rich. But so there's a lot of stereotype about volunteering, or for those who are volunteering. And as we talk to people, we realize that we also need to focus on education, right? To showcase to people why there's many ways that people can help. It's not just about money. It can be about their time. It can be about their talent, right? They don't need to commit long term. If they just have one Saturday or 2 hours in a Saturday, they can also do that. So that's why we create a variety of options and examples for people, so that they realize that, yeah, it's not just about tree planting. They can also do graphic design or social media management as part of their volunteering, right? So that's why then transition to, hey, we need more and more NGOs to partner with, so that we can showcase to people that there are a variety of options where they can help,
Mm-mm.
right? And we also said that we will not create our own events just for the sake people can volunteer. We will not create tutorials just for the sake that people will have a place to volunteer for. We will partner with other nonprofits who have those programs, sustainable programs, such that if you, Trish, you only have 1 hour this week to tutor math for a child, it is still part of that collective program. uh, if the next volunteer that comes in will continue what you taught that child, right? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's a
that's that.
continuity. The one like
There's the
from one to the
continuity.
other.
Yeah, there's that sustainability also. So like what you're showing now, Trish, in the slides. So the programs that we have are not necessarily volunteer events, but it's really more for volunteer education. So we go to schools, we have campaigns like what we're having this Saturday, Go Volunteer Expo, so that we can create that awareness and education for people to understand more about volunteering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could talk about GoVol actually in a while because I think that also has a lot of things like that'll be nice for people to know about, like because what is it, like what is an expo, like what do you actually like see through it. But from here we see, like for example, like I volunteers platforms, so like they have so many events throughout the years, and I've actually compiled like a bunch of pictures. Like I was looking through the Facebook, I was looking through our little timeline, like how everything grew actually. So yeah, like for example, I think it started like, I don't know if you can see this, but these are the founders at the radio show. And then there's also like the mural painting. So there's just a lot. There's a lot of things that people can like go and help out with. And this is like in Brigada Escuela in 2014 also. So like I could actually like just loop through these pictures as JB talks also. Because like there's also like any something like related to the environment. And of course, all like the expos and everything. Like here is one of them, the wish granting at Glorieta. Like this was cool. This was really really cool. It was a very very big event that I've seen. So yeah, just letting you guys know the variety of stuff that iVol does. Because for this one, like for example, I think you guys got some kids and then you granted their wishes like in this event.
Yeah, so we partner with Glorieta. So every Christmas we have something called iVolunteer, or it used to be called Operation Christmas Elf.
Oh.
So Glorieta wanted to grant 100 wishes of children from different communities or orphanages, where the shoppers can get a wish from the Christmas tree, then buy it from the mall, then deposit it ano ba yun? Deposit center. Then one Sunday, we invited all the kids to come, and then they open their gifts at the
Oh, that's
same time, and you
cute.
will see the faces of the children just light up. No, some were like pictures of celebrity, iba-iba. Some were shoes, some were bikes, some were books. So nakakatuwa yung ano na yun.
Oh, these are their wishes yung sa tree na to. Like this one
Oo,
over here.
nasulat din nila yon.
Oo. It's
At
really
some
really
point,
cute.
nahirapan na nga kami kasi naubos na yung wish and Glorieta still wants more, no? Parang people still want to grant wishes and we ran out of wishes, but it is what it is, no?
Yeah, it's nice. Parang you can actually reach out a lot of people like during mall hours kasi ang daming foot traffic dun eh. And I think that's
Correct.
what's gonna be happening also at the expo. I think I have like pictures of Govol from 2016 over here. Like you can see like the shirt designs. This shirt design is so nice. And then you have your parang very interactive stations. Create your own sipa. I don't know what sipa is in English. What is sipa in English? Rock rock string thing. I don't know what that is. It's like a game. It's like a game.
It's
Lorraine
like
baka
a,
tulong naman. Tulong naman
it's
sa
like
translation.
a small thing that could kick.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a game here in the Philippines.
It's like volleyball, but you use your feet to kick that small item until it falls off the
Yeah.
ground.
It's like you're
I don't know.
dribbling. Yeah, it's like you're dribbling it. Lorraine can help us. Thank you, Lorraine, for translating soon. And then yeah, there's like a bunch of word searches, free snacks for volunteer staff. So do we expect like these kinds of things also like this coming weekend? Because I know there's a lot of activities. Like we've been making the graphics for the activities.
Yes, so hopefully guys can come. So it's Go Volunteer Expo. This is the third installment. Uh, the big difference this year is we're doing it twice, one in Manila, one in Davao.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
we're very excited. So for Manila, it's gonna happen this Saturday and Sunday, May 6 and 7 at SM Mega Mall. So what can you expect? One, it's not the traditional expo where you have those kiosks, the white box type of kiosks. There's no registration. There's no registration fee also because we want to make the expo as accessible to everyone as possible. So we tried to remove all physical barriers. So there's no cords around the expo. Um, there's no walls so that people feel welcome and will not be intimidated to reach out. Some of so what Trish is showing is the one from 2016. You see there some towers where you see like education, children, poverty. So that's where you will find the different nonprofits that you can support under that advocacy. Then you can just casually talk to them. But then there will be also games to make it fun. So I will not reveal the games, but the games are also a little bit educational so that you a little bit understand what the related advocacy is while you're still having fun. And if you finish the games, then you will get a chance also to win raffle prizes. So then there will be also Hero Museum so that you can see some of the volunteer stories and hopefully you can also relate to them, right? We try to create a variety of hero stories as I mentioned earlier, to showcase that it's not only for the single people or it's not only for the young people. Yeah. So we also have senior citizen volunteering. We still have couples, families volunteering, so friends volunteering together. So hopefully people can somehow empathize, sympathize with those stories.
Mhm, mhm. Yep. So yeah, this coming weekend, and I think Davao is next week, if I
Yeah, it's
recall. Yeah, it's
May
next week.
27 and 28.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. If you go to the Facebook page also of iVol, it actually has like the event page there. I'll link it later. I'll actually link it later because Facebook is closed currently for my side. So like based on these JB, because like right now we have like so many people like who are actually part of iVolunteer core. I would say like yeah, the brand people, the corporate relations people, and then on the side also like here are like the stats from 2022. So you have like 9,600 Filipinos helping, 21 communities involved just in 2022, and 199 volunteer events and 12K volunteer opportunities. So it is a lot. But I do want to ask like how are the NGOs doing, like um how is volunteerism now, especially after the pandemic? Because like way before, like you had a lot of like physical volunteering, right? You go to different places, you teach, you go and plant trees, you go and clean, and that all changed when 2020 happened. So how is it right now? Like what is the, I wouldn't say trend, but how are people currently, and like who are the volunteers, what's the demographic? So yeah, any insights on these on what's happening today?
The good thing about the pandemic is it showed us that there are other ways or other forms that people can volunteer still. That includes remote volunteering or online volunteering. And when we say online or virtual volunteering, it's not necessarily something to do with computers. It just means that you're not together.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, soup kitchens, right? You Trish, you can cook at your home. I can cook at my home. We don't need to come together and gather people, right? But you can then share your cooked food in your barangay. I can do that in my barangay. So that's some sort of remote volunteering, or sharing skills like graphic design. That's a way also of remote or virtual volunteering. So that hopefully will continue because there's also value into that. You're not limited to the people who's willing to travel, right? People who are in different countries also can help participate in development here in the Philippines because of those new means of volunteering. But now, going back to what you said about physical volunteering, certainly the physical events got affected.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the reasons why we're having Go Volunteer this 2023 is to showcase to people and reignite the passion of people to go to physical events. Because the behavior of one volunteers have changed. Right? We discovered that we like probably home 50-50, yeah. So we stay more
Mm-hmm.
at home now compared to before, right? So so there's that behavioral change, and some people are still very scared of the pandemic. Yeah, I still know of some people that are not really going out because they have senior citizens at home or young children at home that they also still are protecting. But at the same time, if you talk to the development sector, to the nonprofits, there are also, some of them have also not gone back to the previous programs that they had. One, because
Mm-hmm.
they probably realized that there are better ways to do it with digital capabilities that they learned from the pandemic. But also, there's that fear still to bring volunteers in, and maybe these volunteers will bring COVID to their communities. So that's what we're trying to at least reignite during this period, that yes, we have new ways of volunteering, but there's also value for us to come together, to see each other, to have an exchange of ideas together, right? To have that social connections and interactions, to have that relationship with children or the elderly. So they still need those. And us as human beings, we all need these connections, physical connections. Yeah. Yes, there's many ways to do Zoom meetings now, Google meetings now, but it's still very different when you see each other in person.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we see more people just go volunteer compared to the previous one, previous two go volunteer expos.
Mm-hmm. Although it's understandable rin yung the fear since I think may bagong variety of COVID na naman. So it's like, oh gosh. So I don't know how that's gonna go, but hopefully people still like do social distancing, hoping. So
So
yeah.
yeah, with proper naman how say this protocols like
Mm-mm.
people still wear masks and yun nga, social distancing, it should be okay. It should be doable. Then ano ba sasabihin kong isa? Um, Kalimutan ko. Pero and also the new variants naman are less while it's tawag dito more how say this contagious,
Yeah, I
but
read
it's
that too.
less severe also.
Hoping that
At
our vaccines actually like
correct,
help out with this. But
correct.
I like your thought of having that human connection because that's what really volunteering is, and helping others is really is like having that connection with other people. And before ba, like before 2020, you didn't have like online things. Like hindi ba siya uso back then? I can't remember what happened before. Parang everything about 2020 and way before just got wiped from my brain. Pero alam ko lang na parang sobrang daming physical, like volunteering and physical activities and events way back when. Tapos hindi pa uso yung work from home. Like ngayon lang nila na-notice na, oh, I think everybody can just go on a Zoom meeting. That's great. Although right now, yung work rin namin is like going back to hybrid. So it's like 3 days of work at the office and then 2 days like in home. So parang I understand the idea of yung parang having that human connection kasi like in Zoom meetings you don't really make appointments to just chat and talk about life and talk about life. We don't know who the other person is. Pero like when I, for example, when I'm at the office, bigla na lang, oh, we just suddenly talk about, I don't know, some anime or some game or some random thing that someone saw, and they just comment on it, and then they just learn about that person in that regard. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, the virtual world was not new naman during the pandemic, no? When I started working, which wag na natin alamin kung gaano katagal na
Yeah,
yun.
it's fine. It's okay. No need to, no need to say, no
We were
need to
already
say
working from
that.
home. That was way, way, way before the pandemic. No? But probably yung company ko at the time was more progressive. So
Mm-hmm.
it's there. People were just culturally not ready in most companies. Right? Even virtual volunteering or online volunteering or remote volunteering, it's already there. Like for example, for iVolunteer, the type of volunteering that we do is not necessarily things that we have to be physically always together. Right? So for example, for the things that on social media, every day we do social media management naman, but we're not physically together. So we've been doing virtual volunteering since the start of I Volunteer. But then for the other NGOs, yun, it's quite probably new for them and they were not used to, especially for those service-oriented type of
Mm-hmm.
NGOs where they like do tutorials and do soup kitchens. It's quite difficult at the time to imagine how do we then do this in an online setting. And you also need probably investment like computers, tablets, internet for those like tutorials to make it happen, which was also quite expensive for a nonprofit to invest in.
Yeah, I remember in iVolunteer. So iVolunteer is an event that happened last December. I think that was one of my first major events dito sa iVol that I helped out in. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, like I do help out at iVolunteer as social content planner. So I help with I help with posts and making in-art copy, and also like trying to schedule that out throughout the months. So that's what I do. And we had like an event back in December na it's called iVolunteer, and we basically grant wishes. I noticed that a lot of them are gadgets actually, because they're looking to get into that, I guess, sphere, I guess. But how did you like how did you help them out like during the last 3 years? Like how did you guys help them transition to this kind of setting, especially since they're not used to it?
Yeah. So we invested in a lot of virtual capability session for our nonprofits. Not only on how they engage volunteerism, but also to talk about mental health, to talk about leadership in a virtual situation. We talk about, of course, what are virtual volunteering opportunities to give them some ideas on how they can still get support and help, even if they're not seeing the volunteers. But more importantly, also, is how do they engage volunteers virtually? Because to your point earlier, Trish, it's very difficult to sustain relationships without that physical connections,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you really need to be more and more deliberate to invest on interactions virtually. Kahit it's not fully replaceable, but you still have to do something to make people feel that they're still part of your organization or your community, even if you don't see each other
Mm-mm.
face to face. So we invested in a lot of those capability building program. In 2021, we also launched Tara Volunteer Tayo, which is a gamification of the website. So then, to encourage naman the volunteers to come back volunteering virtually. So this was quite a, how to say this, a unique experience where we're trying to then promote virtual volunteering, but also
Mm-hmm.
gamifying to make it fun also for people. Because at the time, 2021, if you still remember that people were really feeling very dry and down because of being locked down already for more than a year at home, right? So a lot of people were getting depressed. Yun. So
You don't
that's
know
what
what's
we
gonna
did.
happen eh. You don't know what is
Oo
gonna
nga.
happen during that time. Parang it was like extension upon extension upon extension, and you just hear about people dying. It's like, gosh,
Correct.
so traumatic.
Nakakapagod na, di ba? And then, I remember saying goodbye to one of my colleagues in the office. I said, see you next month. I didn't realize that I will not see him for the next 2 years.
Kung ako parang, okay guys, see you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, hindi na in 2 weeks, 2 years. Gosh.
So,
So, it's wild. It was a wild time.
correct. So, ayun. So, we try to find ways to always engage the volunteers in different ways. So that we also try to address the needs. Kaya kanina when you show the different platforms and programs of iVolunteer, parang ang dami, di ba? But
Yeah.
it grew over the years because we realized the evolving needs of the volunteers, and we will create new programs for them.
Mm-mm. So, tara,
Same
volunteer
din
tayo was pandemic. Yun ba yun?
with the pandemic. Oo.
And then social innovation challenge. When did this start? Because this was when people would be talking about like what they could do, right? Parang they're pitching an idea.
Correct, correct.
Mm-mm.
So all the programs the of iVolunteer targets a different, how to say this, stage of volunteering. Yan. So thank you for bringing this back. So there are different types of volunteer. Those who are just starting, those who have already figured out their advocacy and where they want to commit, those who have already decided that they want to be leaders and they want to solve a problem in a specific, I would say this, community, for example. So different types program address different needs. So for example, Start Your Adventure, it's for those volunteers or not even volunteers, those individuals who wants to start volunteering, but they're scared because none of their friends, none of their family are supportive of them volunteering. So always they will reach out to iVolunteer and say, hey, how do I start volunteering? So that's Start Your Adventure so that we can guide these volunteers and then give them some ideas on what's like. for someone who is just starting.
Mm-mm.
Then we have destination, the one with a big heart there. It is really about once you've volunteered in different organizations, at some point you would probably want to settle in a certain advocacy. You would probably say, hey, I don't want to jump from one organization to another anymore. And I want to be more committed to a community or to an advocacy. And hopefully, Destination will help you find your advocacy, which is the tagline, right? By showcasing different NGOs where you can commit into, then eventually be more permanent or regular in that group.
Mm-mm.
Then we also have Social Innovation Challenge for those who have new ideas to how to solve a social problem and they want to start their own nonprofit. Right? This is like an incubation program for startup nonprofit where we handhold them for 8 months, teach them some skills so that they can organize their ideas better, then eventually incubate them, guide them, coach them until they're ready to finally move on their own.
Mm-mm.
So those are the variety of programs that we have and why we have so many names and brands here.
Mm-mm. I do have a question from the chat though. So Pio, she's actually one of my friends from high school. So, classmate namin ni Lorraine dati. She's asking, one of my concerns is I'm very introverted. Though volunteer has been an interest, is there any way to help but not have too much social interaction? Sorry, I'm realizing this might be a weird question, but I think that's a
Yeah.
legit concern eh. Kasi like there's some people who don't really have enough energy talaga to socialize. It's
Yes.
just part of how they are, and it takes like a lot to be out there. Like I would say like I was very introverted in high school. I didn't talk. I didn't talk. I just stared creepily at people and then just read on the side. And then I think it changed in college where I have to like talk to people kasi graphic design had me like presenting my projects. Pero like for and then ngayon parang oh my gosh, I'm a Twitch streamer, amazing. Pero introvert pa rin ako. I still feel shy around so many people. So parang I guess it's innate. It's innate. But how do you help like people who are super introverted like Pio pero still wants to help, like may little steps that she can do, or like do you have any advice on this?
Yeah,
Quiet but judgmental, grabe si Lorraine. Di naman,
sabi
psych
ni
lang.
Pio, stare creepily.
I read a lot of books. I was super quiet. Kasi parang I would just like sit in the corner and then just read and draw. That was how quiet I am. Tapos kapag if there's like people just I don't know doing whatever event dyan, I was just like I'm just gonna be here.
Yeah. But to answer Pio, believe it or not, Pio, I'm a very introverted person. If I take the test, sometimes perfect ko yung introvert scale.
Mm-mm.
So, ganun ako ka-introvert. Nandun ako sa mga 90 to 100% introverted. Minsan walang naniniwala.
Wait, for reals? Introvert ka? Are you
Oh,
sure?
gusto mo pakita ko
Are
pa
you
yung
sure?
screenshot ng test ko, Trish. I have a screenshot. Wala kasi naniniwala sa akin. But introvertness or extrovertness is about where you get your energy. It's not about, it's very different from socializing. That's probably the biggest misunderstanding of what an introvert is. So, yun.
Mm-mm.
Hindi naman ibig sabihin pag introvert ka, hermit ka na, hindi ka na mangangausap ng tao, diba? So, so you still talk to people, yeah, but then you drain your energy and you need time to recharge and recompose yourself. That's being introverted. So, nag-start ako mag-volunteer because I want to overcome my shyness. And that was my motivation. So, it was way, 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 way back. Long, long time ago. Wag na natin bilangin. But I knew that I had to do something about it because I cannot stay like a hermit. Not I'm very shy. I really walk away from mga spotlight, from mga performances. When I was younger, my parents would force me to perform in mga family events or mga friends ng dad ko. Then I will just
Perform.
really say no, I cannot. Really, I'm just cannot. I don't like the spotlight. But I don't know what triggered me, but I realized I have to overcome this. Uh, and then I just volunteered sa church one day to be a reader. So then I forced myself every Sunday to stand in front of a lot of people, right? And then just read something out of the Bible. But then that's my way of practicing and being, how is it, familiar with
Mm-mm.
the feeling of putting myself out there. Right? So I think being yun, we should not say that we are an introvert and we cannot volunteer. You can still volunteer even if you're an introvert. One, sabi ko nga kanina, there's a lot of other ways, which is virtual volunteering. Right? So then you don't see people as often as possible. But um, once you start to realize, like, I don't like, kanina Trish said that I was already speaking in CNN this
CNN
morning.
and the radio
I
show
the radio
too.
show. I'm a very private person, but somehow I realize if I have an advocacy that I really want to push forward to, I cannot just stay quiet, right? Because what's the point if my advocacy, ako lang nakakaalam or I'm the only person who knows my advocacy, then what's the point of being advocate for that? Right? Or if I'm only advocating to my best friend or to my father, mother, brother, sister, then what kind of advocate will I be? Diba? Then that's where I draw my energy. That if I'm passionate about things, then I will really push myself to be out there and talk about this. But it doesn't mean that I don't get exhausted.
Mm-mm.
So after this, I'm gonna have a good sleep tonight, Trish, because I've already exhausted my social energy for the entire day. Right. Then I will recharge, and tomorrow is another day that I just have to continue what I choose to do and be be vocal about my advocacies. So yun lang naman. So, but there are many ways. You can also choose like physical activities that don't really need a lot of interaction, like tree planting. You don't need to have a lot of interaction there. Probably coastal cleanup, right? You can do your own thing. Um, it depends what you're passionate about, like social media management, as Trisha was sharing earlier. You also don't need to have a lot of external interaction, maybe internal to the team. Yes, Trisha will also need to coordinate with other people, but probably that's already within her comfort. Not doesn't feel like it's going beyond being an introvert. So there are many ways. Pio, I hope that helps give some example on how you can start also your volunteering story.
Yeah, little by little, no? Just tiny little steps. I'm looking at the site ngayon. Let me... Actually, you know what? Can I screen share this? Teka lang. Wait lang.
Kukwento ko lang, Trish, normally pag introvert din, it doesn't mean that you don't have social interaction, but you're more comfortable to be with people that you're familiar with, di ba?
Mm-mm. Yes.
And, and then maybe start volunteering with your friends that or barkada mo na kakilala mo na, then it
Uy!
doesn't feel,
Uy! Wink, 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 wink! Uy, uy, uy! Lorraine. Baka naman. Maybe you can talk to P.
ayun, si Lorraine
Work
tsaka
with
si Teresa
us. Work with
are
me and
volunteering
Lorraine.
together. Oh.
Actually, you have a point. Kasi like, when I first started at iVol, yung point person ko is Lorraine. And I was still shy around Lizelle. It's very shy
Mm.
around Lizelle. And
But then
very
what
shy
happened?
around, I don't know. Nagkaroon
How
ng
did you
ano.
become close with Lizelle, Trish?
Maraming deadlines. Around that. And then we just, I don't know, I guess we started talking sa group chat about other stuff, about stream, ano pa ba? About, yeah, there's a lot of stuff rin eh. Ano pa ba? Work. Oh, work. Oh, ayun yun. Lorraine is asking, or anyone here who wants to write for us? Grabe, nagpa-promote na si Lorraine ng ano. Lorraine is promoting, yeah. Ayun na yun na yun. Friends of Hera, tara, I volunteer. But yeah, I think having Lorraine, kasi she was the one who invited me to this because I was very, um, what's the word for it? I wanted to really help things, and I don't know where to start kasi our world's insane. Our world's super 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 insane, and it's just like it has a lot of problems. So parang how do I do something about it in the skill set that I'm comfy with, which is graphic design and also marketing. Oh,
Yeah.
design says introverted and super awkward din ako. But when I joined the volunteer group, surprisingly, naging talkative ako. Siguro dahil meron kaming same goals and views, kaya naging madali makipag-usap. Interesting din yung iba-iba kaming tao, pero may common goals for betterment. Iba-ibang
Mm.
backgrounds. It's actually good. Thank you. Thank you, design. That's a good insight. Kasi you
Yeah,
have the
tama.
same goals.
Yeah. Kwento ko lang din, no, Trish. I'm in IT and in the volunteer sector, which I feel is predominantly introverted people. But then, what I realized, being, kahit hindi pa rin kayo naniniwala na introvert ako, pero introvert pa rin talaga ako. If you don't open up to yourself and you always use introvert as an excuse of why you are not able to do things, you will really not be able to overcome your introvertness. And then you will never really discover, like what design said about finding that group that you will feel that you are part of. Right? So, hindi lang dapat you find a group that will welcome you, but you also find a group that you want to welcome. It should be a two-way relationship. Yun.
Mm-mm. So, ayun. Lorraine says, Hi, Design 99, super agree. Super introverted din yung mga marketing people from iVolunteer, pero ang gulo nila. Like, they're really nice, like the designers. Kasi we started talking to them a lot since we work with them a lot. Like, they're funny. They're funny, they're hilarious. Diana makes the best jokes. So, those are really, really nice people. And you know na they have a good heart, being able to like just do stuff for others as well. Diana for the win. Shout out kay Diana. Like, the one thing I like about Diana, diba, she posts yung mga design stuff. Tapos parang, hi guys, looking for your feedback. But I really think na ganyan. Parang, girl, wala na kami feedback. Ikaw na nag-feedback sa sarili mong work. I guess okay na yan.
Yeah.
And then there's so
Saka
many
normally
talented people.
may backup plan na siya.
Oo,
Sa
parang,
feedback niya, mayroon na rin siyang second design because
oo nga, parang, okay, ayun na. You corrected. Wala na kayong mako-comment dyan kundi ganda. Ayan. But they're really, really talented people also. And I think that's nice. Mas maraming
talented din yung si
options.
Diana sa singing.
Okay. Noted. Noted. For our next events. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Pio Pichi. And yeah, I think having the online stuff would be a good start. Working with me and Lorraine would be a good start. Smile. Ayan. So, like, JB, do you have any memorable moments in iVolunteer? Kasi they always just started talking about Diana and how she's really, really she's really, really funny with how she submits work. But how about you? Do you have any memorable like volunteering events or activities or parang even just the small stuff? Like what's your interaction with others like? Kasi 'di ba you are
Yeah.
friends with the co-founders as well, sina Belle. Um when people started trickling in, parang little by little until you have like how many are we na? May picture yung
50?
yearbook, ito yung yearbook photo. Not 4, 8, 12, 16. Ang dami.
50.
Yeah,
Mm.
around 50, right? So like, do
Oo.
you have any, I don't know, do you have any memorable like moments with people, or even like memorable moments with the NGOs that we've partnered with? So
Well,
yeah.
madami, no? Sobrang dami. Like, when you were showing the photos now, Trish, parang ano to, parang reflection din sa akin. No? A lot of good memories. Like, what you're flashing now, this is the first social innovation challenge where iba talaga when you speak with like-minded people and the energy is just there. You just click also with not only with the formal stuff like the ideas, but also personalities just click and then you feel belong. I remember one of the earliest days of iVolunteer, still my favorite. In 20, I think 2014, this was Typhoon Yolanda. Tama ba? Oh, Typhoon Yolanda where it hit Samar and Leyte. Hindi ko alam kung if you guys still
Is this
remember
the
that.
same as Ulysses? Ulysses? Am I pronouncing?
Ulysses is quite
Iba siya,
recent.
di ba? Iba siya. Okay, Yolanda's different. But yeah, I remember.
Yolanda, yes.
Yeah, they're all bad. They're all bad.
Oh.
They're bad storms.
So during summer, we went to Leyte or Mok to volunteer and rebuild houses. And this was with Gawad Kalingap, together with the rest of the iVolunteer team. So we had that parang feeling ko, savior complex na we're gonna go there, help them, because they are in a very terrible situation. But then when we reached there, you see, while they were crying, a lot of them will tell me really parang traumatic stories nila on how they fit 12 people, for example, in a 1 by 1 square meters. 1 square meter, yun. 1 square meter na toilet with 12 people. Hindi ko alam kung na-imagine nyo yung 1 square meter. But it's very small
Mm-mm.
because that's the only cemented part of their home. The rest, paglabas nila nung toilet na cemented part, wala na yung buong bahay nila. Right? They were crying when they were telling me this story. But then you will still see that they're hopeful, that they're very jolly, that they still feel blessed. Right? But because regardless na nawala yung bahay nila, those 12 people, for example, the entire family was safe. So parang wow, parang you feel that you're gonna go there and help them, but then you come back parang feeling that they are really the ones who help you understand what's important in life. Right? Kahit wala na sila, they are still able to smile. They are still able to welcome me. They are still able to provide the whatever little that they have. They share it with me for their meals, for their food. Right? So, yun yung isa sa mga parang grabe, sobrang nakakataba ng puso. But then marami rin naman mga fun stories lang yung just hanging out with the rest of the iVolunteer staff. Normally after meetings,
Mm-mm.
after the SICs will go out for dinner and drinking, then a lot of funny things happen during the time na hindi ko na ma-elaborate pa tonight. Pero that's where relationship happens, right? That's where people open up. That's where people start to become comfortable also with each other. So, yeah, importante yung nakikita-kita talaga tayo.
How about, like, for example, if you don't know what you wanna help out with, parang you have this vague feeling of wanting to help out, right? Since nakita mo naman every day, like, how bad things are, or but also how better they could be. Like, how would you try to find like a thing to focus on in terms of like your advocacy? Like, would you share, because diba we have like some platforms, like I think there's your start your own adventure, but it won't be for a while, right? So parang like right now, what can they do to try and find that thing that they want to like focus on?
Yeah. maybe it's not necessarily signing through iVolunteer, but maybe you can start with simple things like if within your neighborhood, yeah, you see urban poor families on the side street, maybe just give them food, right? Or I heard about the other day, I was talking to somebody, their advocacy is feeding stray animals. Right? So there are a lot of random ways where you can start volunteering, not formally into institutions, but in your own way. You can also do that. If you're active within your barangay or your church, that can be also an option. So at least you're familiar and comfortable with or you already know the people around you. But if wala talaga, then that's where iVolunteer website comes in, where you can select based on your interest, based on your schedule, based on your location, on where do you want to help. Hindi naman agad-agad that you will figure out na that this is my advocacy. Don't force also yourself to just have an advocacy for the sake of saying that I have an advocacy. Sometimes volunteering, just if you have time, just share whatever time you have, regardless of what type of advocacy. And maybe at some point in your life, you will realize, this is probably where I belong. You will realize that at the right time. Don't rush it. Right?
Mm-mm.
But until you get to that point, then just explore. One day you do tutorials, another day you do soup kitchen, another day you go tree planting, then another day maybe participate in animal welfare, another day you probably go to mental health type of advocacies, another day you visit elderly, then figure out from there, have a reflection every time if this is something you really want to do. Then you will find your destination. That's why it's called destination.
Do we have other questions? But if you guys like think of questions after this talk, just message me and maybe I could get it to JB like at some point. At some point. Before we go final question. Because like some of the insights that you've said, JB, are really, really helpful. Especially for those who are unsure, like how to start, who are unsure about like their social energy around people, unsure about what kind of thing they want to focus on. Like definitely the website itself also gives like a lot of options for people to choose from. Plus like the platforms, plus the events. And I think maybe this Saturday, since the NGOs themselves will also have like their own separate booths, right? Like, so people can ask them questions as well.
So we have a variety of NGOs. We have 16 participating NGOs, and they are in different advocacies. They are in different locations. So feel free to come, or we really hope that you can come. Invite your friends, your families, right? And just talk to them. See if they match your interests. See if you click, right? Then volunteer for those that you feel that will satisfy your desire to volunteer.
Mm-mm-mm. Okay.
Para na naman 'tong dating, Trish. So
What?
ano muna,
What? What?
get to know, 'di ba?
Grabe yung
Get to
metaphor. Yeah,
oh,
speed dating
get
guys. Speed dating
oh,
and
get to
NGO.
know muna kayo then bago ka mag-commit ng long term, wag muna
What
ano.
is this? Lorraine says, see you at Mega Mall then Diretso Gala. Oh my god. I see what's happening. So guys, you heard it from JB Tan. Volunteerism is like dating. Wild. Okay, so do you have for the last question, what are your thoughts for I guess the near future? Like where do you see this going? Because we have a bunch of stuff happening this year. But in the long run, like what would your goal for I Volunteer be and how has it changed throughout the years? Like how
Ah,
do you see yourself 2 years from now? Like near future.
okay. Well, how we dream about I Volunteer has evolved and evolved over and over again. Yun nga, sa simula, it was just a website. Then we realized it is more volunteer education. Then eventually we had to bring the trust back, and that's why we do more vetting of NGOs. So, nag-evolve na. But I think at least for the near future, where we want to see iVolunteer focus more are two areas. One is geographic expansion.
Mhm.
Because today, iVolunteer is mainly heavily here in Metro Manila.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So even if you look into the volunteer opportunities in the site, it's mainly Metro Manila or Greater Metro Manila. Um, and when we say that we want every Filipino to volunteer, then it cannot be just Metro Manila. So that's why we started also reaching out to Davao as the next space to expand to. And that's why we're also having an expo there. But eventually, we hope that in every part of the country, there will be presence of iVolunteer slash volunteering groups. So that's one. Second is also to invest more on volunteer leaders or volunteer ambassadors. Because we also realize that the 50 people in iVolunteer cannot do this alone. Right? If we want to encourage every Filipino, which means 100 million of Filipinos to volunteer, then di namin kayang 50 lang kami. Di ba? We need to create that multiplier effect that the other volunteer leaders will also encourage volunteers or leaders, social development sector leaders, encourage more people to also volunteer within their own localized community, within the barangay. And with that, then we can start to reach every Filipino in terms of really taking part. And when we say volunteer, it's not always naman, it's not always, parang minsan kasi nakakatakot when we say volunteer, parang ang bigat na salita, di ba? It's like a big responsibility. And it feels, for some people, it's very noble, right? And people sometimes are scared to commit to a noble act. But volunteering, as I shared earlier, can be as simple as being kind to the person in front of your house, helping stray animals, helping the urban poor family, right? Sharing your talents like your graphic design skills, your writing skills na kanina pang sinasabi ni Lorraine. Uh, so there are many, many ways for us to be kind and volunteer a piece of ourselves to somebody else. It doesn't need to be through I volunteer. It doesn't need to be through formal institution. It can be in your own way. As long as you're doing that, then you're volunteering. Yun. So, yun lang naman yung simple na pangarap ko na everybody creates that lifestyle kapag magde-date kayo. Hindi lang movie, hindi lang dinner, hindi lang ano pa ba, church ang options, but one option is also to date while volunteering. Also for family days, di ba? Hindi lang pag Sunday o magsimba tayo, mag-mall tayo. One option na pwedeng gawin ng mga tao is also mag-volunteer. Ayan. So yun, sabi ni Pio, ako magbabasa.
Mm-mm.
Especially when you hear of news of NGOs that pocket donations, it is kind of scary. Yeah. So that's why we also vet our NGO partners. So the NGOs that you will see in our website, Pio, are legitimate NGOs that we have evaluated and make sure that they're not gonna do this to any of the volunteers. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been
Ayun.
established for many years. But I understand yung ano yung fear kasi like with the for example with the rise of Twitter, you don't know if you're really reaching out to the people who need. So ayan, the vetting part of this work really helps.
Yes. May question si Kyojin.
I
I
feel
feel like I missed the part where you discussed this, but how do you approach a situation where a certain place needed some volunteering? Isip ko kung tama ba pagkakaintindi ko. So normally we partner with institutions that needs volunteers, because that's how we can also guarantee that if if more or less established na yung institution and it has a track record, then it's easier to validate and vet if they are a legitimate group versus people also come to us like during, for example, especially during typhoon, no? Ang daming nagpa-pop up na mga personal effort or small group effort that will come to iVolunteer and ask for donations or ask for volunteers.
Mhm.
We don't partner with them because yun, we are trying to avoid yung concern ni Pio that maybe this, we don't know, right? But there could be a risk that volunteers can get scammed. So we are very careful with that. We're not saying that don't support those naman, right? You can still support those, especially if they are your friends. But just for us as an institution to endorse them, it's quite difficult if they're not organized. And then suddenly one day post the calamity, mawawala na lang sila. Then mahirap yung ganun. So I hope I answered your question, Kyojin.
There's a more specific one. Like, for example, 2020 pandemic, how was that situation handled? Did you mean, like, for example, when people were, like, needing test kits or, like, what was needed back then? Hospital,
Yeah, test
more of
kits,
hospital
so
stuff yun eh. More
correct.
hospital
Oo, mga
masks.
PPEs,
Uh,
oo, tsaka food for the frontliners. So at the time we were not able to do physical volunteering, no. So we focus more on donation or what we call treasure volunteering as well. So sharing your treasure. And at the time also it was very difficult to move goods around. So
mhm,
it's the fastest way to send help is through money transfer. So again, we did raise funds for variety of advocacy, like what Trisha said, PPEs, masks, test kits, food for the frontliners. So a lot of those things we raise funds for, but then we channel them to institutions na we know that will really buy the right products, right? Hindi siya individuals. So we channel it to hospitals, we channel it to other groups that we've already known for the past few years so that we make sure that we make the best out of the donations that we get.
mhm. Okay, I hope that
Ayun.
answers
So
your
far, wala pa
question.
naman nagko-complain sa amin that yung mga nakita nilang dinonate nila napunta somewhere else. So,
Dapat sa divisory. Oh my god. That was wild. People talaga. Like, it's unfortunate that there are people like that who
wow.
take advantage of others' kindness. But I hope that doesn't like stop people from helping out also, kasi, well, you know, I don't know, those are just a few bad eggs when
Mm.
there's so many other good things out there, good people out there. Hmm. Lorraine says, so going back to writing, let Hera know if anyone here wants to write. We do need and want writers. So yun. Um, any last words, JB, so we can let you go so you can rest. Since you already like plugged in, go Vol. Wait, let me also like post the event page here. This is the event for Manila, the URL that I placed here, and this is the event for Davao for our Davao friends as well. Oh wait, is it the same NGOs for Davao, JB?
Iba, iba.
Iba. Okay, iba. All right. So hopefully we get more events that aren't Manila based. So kasi there are some people here who aren't from Manila and JB, like they're around the area. It pretty far away from this place. Kaya
Mm. like
like having the talk of expansion is actually super helpful. Ayan.
Yes. Thank you
Uh,
daw, sabi ni Kyojin.
nice. Any last words, JP?
Yeah, last words. Hopefully, we see you in SM Mega Mall or SM Davao this coming May. If hindi man, visit our website, ivolunteer.com.ph. Encourage your friends also. If I can just ask a small favor from you, yung mga shinare ni Trisha today na materials, or if you can go to the Facebook page ni iVolunteer if you can just share those posts in your respective wall, that will already go a long way for people to get to know, and hopefully they get inspired with those simple graphics that we create, so that they start volunteering too. And if
Mm-hmm.
you have any questions, feel free to drop it to Trish. Then I'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, yes. If you guys think of anything, if you have any writing specific question, I could get that to Lorraine also.
Yeah.
Um,
Isa pa
and
pala,
yeah.
Trish, follow also our social media pages. We are
Oh
available in
yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah, yeah.
Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and also TikTok. So,
Teka
yon.
lang, teka lang. So I already gave the Facebook page. I gave the website. What is the TikTok na? Oh my gosh, I haven't logged
Volunteer
into TikTok
PH.
in a while. I forgot my password for it. I'm so sorry. Oh, here's yeah, I volunteer PH. There you go. Imagine, imagine. I do have one. I do have a TikTok. It's just that I just cannot remember. I can't remember how to get in. And then we also have Instagram, by the way, guys. We used to have one before, and then it disappeared.
Yeah.
So now we're actually gone back to building that up. Like I think late last year. Yeah, I think it was late last year, maybe around October or November, around that time. So if you guys could follow that, like basically just Google I volunteer PH. Lorraine also writes for the blog. And it's different from the website. I think you have to scroll down to get to it. Let me get you guys the vlog itself. So these are more of like yeah, there you
blog.ivolunteer.com.ph.
go. I sorry, Lorraine. The links get cut off. Why? I should give you like the. I should give you the VIP badge so you can like put the link. But I'll do that later on. So yeah, Lorraine does write-ups for the blog along with Ayana, like one of our volunteers. So if you guys like want more information aside from just pictures, because Facebook and Instagram have the pictures, this one actually has the write ups and more details about each event and also the people who are what they call the volunteer champs. I think that's a is that yearly or quarterly?
Yearly, yearly.
Yearly. So we have write ups about them and how they pretty much like help out their community. So if you guys want to check that out, there is the blog. And any messages to Lorraine, you can give it to me. You can write for the blog or captions if you want short form. I really like how Lorraine is just trying to get writers in the chat. So yeah. Thank you,
All right.
JB. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
I'll see you.
enjoy.
Bye.